Level 1. Everyone does it. You've watched your club hold a 1-goal lead. The opposition win the ball in midfield, and suddenly it's a 3-on-3 counter. Your midfielder is a yard behind the man in possession, and you're on your feet screaming at the TV. Foul him! You hate it when it happens to you. You love it when it saves you. That instinct, that exact feeling, is where this video begins. Casemiro has collected 19 yellow cards and 2 red cards across 77 Premier League appearances. That's a card roughly every 4 games. At Real Madrid, he was the same. You don't rack up those numbers by accident. You rack them up by deciding, in the moment a forward is about to break clear, that a yellow card is a better outcome than a goal. Casemiro slides because he knows he doesn't have the pace to catch them. The card is built into the calculation before his knee hits the turf. Every club has a version of this. Marouane Fellaini didn't have the same tactical brain, a killer pass, or electric pace. What he had was a forearm, a body, and absolutely no embarrassment about using either. Rodri operates at the Casemiro end of the intelligence scale, and the principle is identical. Foul early, foul cleanly, and make the referee's job easy. No discussion. Everyone accepts the outcome. And then there's time wasting. The goalkeeper who can't seem to find his feet after a routine save. The striker who goes down with cramp in the 87th minute and needs 2 minutes of medical attention before making a miraculous recovery the second the ball is back in play. The defender who takes 45 seconds to walk 10 yards to a throw-in. You've seen all of it, from every club, including yours. Football had a 6-second rule on goalkeeper ball retention since 2000. Referees almost never enforced it. In 2025, they finally replaced it with an 8-second rule, added a visible countdown, and made the punishment a corner rather than a free kick. Something ignored for 25 years suddenly had teeth. This is level 1. Everyone does it. Everyone pretends they don't. Level 2. The mind games. Before Jose Mourinho walked into a press conference, he had already decided what the press conference was for. Not to answer questions, to send a message. To a rival manager, a referee, a board, a player who needed tough love. The room was just the medium. His feud with Arsène Wenger lasted nearly 2 decades and produced some of the most surgical public demolitions football has ever seen. In February 2014, after a run of results Mourinho considered flattering, he called Wenger a specialist in failure. Not a dig, a verdict, delivered calmly. Then he moved on to the next question. Wenger, who rarely gave him the satisfaction of a clean response, spent years visibly rattled by it in a way he never was against anyone else. Pep Guardiola learned some of this from the same game, even if he'd never admit it. His small club routine. Deployed at precise moments to shift pressure, generate noise, and destabilize, is Mourinho's method in a different accent. The objective is identical. Make the other team react to you before a ball is kicked. Some managers don't even need to pick a fight. In January 2021, Jurgen Klopp mentioned in a post-match press conference that Manchester United had received more penalties in 2 years than he'd managed to get in 5.5. He said it almost as a throwaway. "I've no idea if that's my fault or how that can happen." That was it. No sustained campaign, no accusations, just a sentence. After Klopp's comments, United's penalty count dropped sharply. 1 press conference, 1 sentence. The power of the mind games. Every manager you've ever loved has done a version of this. The difference is, Mourinho did it better than anyone who has ever lived. Level 3. The intimidators. Football has always had players who made the game feel personal. Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira were the best of that generation. And the worst, depending on which side you were on. They were different in method. Vieira was 6 feet 4 inches, immaculate on the ball. and played with a controlled aggression. Keane was pure competitive fury, dialed so far past normal human intensity that teammates watched him in training the same way opponents did in matches, with a certain wariness they never quite shook. What they shared was a refusal to let the game be neutral. Every tackle was a statement. Every confrontation was intentional. The defining moment came in the tunnel at Highbury in February 2005. Before a top-of-the-table clash, Vieira had targeted Gary Neville in the warm-up, cornering him in the tunnel, getting in his face, making it personal. Neville went back to the dressing room and mentioned it to Keane. When the teams lined up to walk out, Keane came charging through the crowd of players with the cameras rolling, referee Graham Poll standing feet away, and confronted Vieira directly. "See you out there," broadcast on Sky Sports. Heard by everyone. Nobody was booked. Nobody intervened. Diego Costa spent 90 minutes introducing small irritants that accumulated until opponents stopped playing football and started playing him. Whispering, standing on feet, elbowing in the back, making every duel feel like a personal dispute. Pepe operated at a different frequency entirely. He stamped on Messi's hand during a 2011 El Clasico. His disciplinary record across a career was so extreme, well over 100 yellow cards, more than a dozen reds, that it became its own kind of reputation. Not a player you wanted to stand next to when the referee wasn't watching. Nigel de Jong put his studs into Xabi Alonso's chest in the 2010 World Cup final. A challenge so violent that referee Howard Webb later admitted he should have sent him off. He just hadn't seen it clearly enough from where he was standing. De Jong got a yellow, stayed on the pitch. Football gods intervened and Netherlands lost anyway. The intimidators have the ability to get inside your head and break your legs. Sometimes they do both in the same match. Level 4. The Performers. Arjen Robben did something almost nobody in the history of simulation has ever done. He admitted it. After the 2014 World Cup, where a penalty decision proved decisive, Robben confirmed that he had dived in the box against Mexico in the quarter-final. Not implied, not suggested, confirmed. He said the word. In football, where the default response to any accusation of simulation is sustained theatrical innocence, that admission stands almost completely alone. Robben was at least honest about it in retrospect. Neymar, at the 2018 World Cup, spent approximately 14 minutes on the ground across the tournament, rolling and writhing through contacts that, when replayed, were frequently either minimal or non-existent. The internet turned it into a meme. None of it seemed to embarrass him particularly. Sergio Busquets was subtler and, as a result, more dangerous. The clip of him peeling one eye open to check whether the referee had bought it, while his hand covered his face in apparent agony, became one of football's most watched moments, precisely because it revealed the machinery behind the performance. You weren't watching a man in pain. You were watching a man working. What happened next is what the clip usually cuts before. In the second leg of the 2010 Champions League semi-final at Camp Nou, Busquets went down under a challenge from Thiago Motta. The referee showed Motta a red card. He walked off after 28 minutes. Inter played the remaining 60-plus minutes of the tie with 10 men. Barcelona won the game 1-0. It wasn't enough. Inter went through 3-2 on aggregate and won the Champions League that season. Level 5. The Fine Line. Mikel Arteta doesn't break rules. He studies them. He finds the rooms inside them that nobody else has bothered to enter, and then he moves in. 16 goals from corners in a single Premier League season, equaling the all-time record. Not because Arsenal happen to have tall players, because Arteta runs set pieces as integrated attacking systems, choreographed from the moment the corner is won. Players stationed to block the goalkeeper's sightline and his ability to move. Runners timed to arrive into space that blockers have manufactured a second earlier. Saliba and White positioned directly beside the opposing goalkeeper, bodying him, obstructing him, and making his 17 yards of penalty area feel claustrophobic. Everywhere he wants to move, there's an Arsenal shirt. Every time he tries to claim his space, the geometry has already been rearranged against him. The average Arsenal corner takes 44 seconds to set up, against a league average of around 30. Those extra 14 seconds aren't slowness, they're choreography. A way of resetting the attacking structure, holding the shape, controlling exactly what happens when the ball arrives. Opposing managers noticed. Everton's David Moyes was specific. Good delivery, good style, but ultimately a lot of dark arts. Blocking the goalkeeper from the back or the front, blocking defenders and making it difficult. Brighton's Fabian Hürzeler complained that Arsenal were taking over a minute on corners and it needed to stop. Arne Slot questioned whether the broader set-piece arms race was making the game worth watching. Mostly within the rules. Little of it within the spirit they were written for. That distinction between the law as written and the law as intended runs through this entire video. Arsenal has weaponized the gap more openly and more effectively than anyone has before them. Level 6. The Architects. Sir Alex Ferguson retired in May 2013. For 26 years, he had been the most powerful figure in English football. Fergie time was over. The phrase described a specific phenomenon. Stoppage time that, with a frequency that defied statistical probability, seemed to benefit Manchester United. Ferguson never admitted to pressuring officials. He didn't need to. The officials said it themselves, and eventually, so did his own players. Graham Poll said referees were afraid of him. Mark Clattenburg confirmed United received favourable decisions and that the dynamic eased the moment Ferguson left. Harry Redknapp said managers were scared to upset him. Phil Neville, who played under Ferguson for over a decade, who won 6 league titles in that dressing room, said it plainly. We got better decisions. We were masters at it. Not an accusation from a rival, a statement from inside. Even the officials who tried to push back found themselves talking to walls. Clattenburg once asked Rio Ferdinand to pass a message to Ferguson about his behaviour on the touchline. Ferdinand looked at him and said, "I'm not telling him." Everybody understood the hierarchy. Nobody wanted to disturb it. Diego Simeone built something different at Atletico Madrid, but the principle was identical. Where Ferguson's system operated through presence and reputation, Simeone's operated through organized chaos. Tactical fouling, not as individual instinct, but as collective instruction, drilled into every player from the moment they arrived. Time wasting, choreographed to the minute. Players surrounding referees in rotating waves. Never the same man twice, never long enough to draw a card, always enough to plant doubt. In March 2022, Atletico came to Old Trafford for a Champions League last 16 second leg. They scored once, through Renan Lodi. Then they built a wall and dismantled the clock. Rangnick's post-match verdict was delivered with the precision of a man who had been kept waiting. I don't think the game was played for more than 3 minutes in a row without being interrupted, without somebody lying on the floor. Manchester United were out. Atletico had won. The following season's Champions League quarter-final told a different story. When Atletico faced Manchester City over 2 legs, City had the better of both, winning 1-0 at the Etihad, holding out for a goalless draw in Madrid when Atletico finally opened up and created chances they couldn't convert. Felipe was sent off. Savic appeared to headbutt Raheem Sterling and pull Jack Grealish's hair in the chaos of the final minutes. And when it was over, Atletico's captain Koke stood in front of the cameras and accused City of time-wasting. The irony writes itself. Then there was Jose Mourinho, again. In 2010, leading Real Madrid comfortably through the Ajax group stage with the final group game already a dead rubber, he passed a message through his substitute goalkeeper, Jerzy Dudek, to Casillas, and then to Sergio Ramos and Xabi Alonso on the pitch. What followed was the most deliberate pair of yellow cards in Champions League history. Suspensions served in an irrelevant fixture. Slates wiped clean for the knockout rounds. UEFA fined Mourinho €40,000. He filed it as a cost of doing business. The same cold calculations Simeone drilled into a squad and Ferguson embedded into an institution. Level 7. Crossing the line. At Level 3, we told you about Roy Keane. What we didn't tell you, what Keane eventually told us himself, is what he was actually capable of. In his 2002 autobiography, Keane described a tackle on Alf-Inge Haaland in 2001. He had waited, specifically for Haaland, specifically because of something that had happened between them years earlier. When the moment came, he took it deliberately, his own words. Not a mistimed challenge, not competitive fury that got away from him, a decision made in advance, executed when the opportunity arrived. The book cost him an additional £150,000 fine and a 5-match ban when the Football Association read it. In his second autobiography, he revisited the incident. "There are things I regret in my life," he wrote, "and that is not one of them." Luis Suarez bit someone at a World Cup. Not only that, it was the third time he had bitten an opponent in professional football. This time, Giorgio Chiellini's shoulder. Then he himself went to ground as if the whole thing had happened to him, and he was the victim. He received a 4-month ban. In the quarter-final of the same tournament 4 years earlier, Suarez had done something different. Ghana, final minute of extra time. A header from Dominic Adia, goal-bound, almost certainly going in. The ball was heading into the net. Suarez, on the line, stopped it with both hands. Red card. Penalty. Asamoah Gyan hit the crossbar. Uruguay won on penalties. Africa had never reached a World Cup semi-final. It still hasn't. Suarez said afterwards, "The hand of God now belongs to me." The question is not whether it was wrong. It was wrong, and he was punished for it by the rules of the competition. The question is whether you would have done it. Last minute. Extra time, your country going out, a ball heading into the net, your hands there to stop it. Drop your answer in the comments. Now we've arrived at the moment where things somehow turn even worse. On the 9th of March 2026, Cruzeiro played Atlético Mineiro in the Campeonato Mineiro final. Late in stoppage time, Atletico goalkeeper Everson made a save, was challenged on the rebound by Cruzeiro midfielder Christian, and responded by rugby tackling him to the turf and dropping both knees into his head. What followed wasn't a brawl, it was a collapse. The benches emptied, military police were called. 23 red cards were issued retrospectively. Hulk, 39 years old, 20 years in professional football, a career built on being the hardest man in whatever room he walked into, punched an opponent in the back of the head while the man wasn't looking. Not in the heat of the pile-in, a separate, private decision. The following morning, Hulk posted on Instagram, "What happened yesterday does not represent the values that football should embody. Rivalry is part of the sport, but respect must always prevail over any emotion." That's level 7, where the dark arts stop being arts. If this video made you think about where your own line on dark arts versus opportunistic exploitation of the rules is drawn, make sure to subscribe.